"You're just not strategic enough, Maya," Brad whispered loud enough for half the office to hear. That wasn't the first dagger he'd thrown at me, just the first one, he said in front of the new VP. But let's rewind 3 years to a rainy Thursday that smelled like burned microwave popcorn and shattered dreams. Maya Chen sat across from the C-suite at TechFlow Solutions, still believing hard work meant something. She just pulled 2 all-nighters perfecting the client presentation that landed him their biggest contract to date. Brad Martinez was sick that day, code for hungover from his networking happy hour. When the executives applauded at the meeting's end, Brad materialized like a delivery driver claiming tips for pizza he didn't bake. "Great team effort," he announced, that Silicon Valley smirk plastered across his face like a sticker on a MacBook Pro. Maya noticed the pattern immediately. "He wins, she serves. We're partners," he'd say, adjusting his Patagonia vest while Maya bled over spreadsheets at midnight. But she knew partner meant she worked, he branded. Till she took the promotion. While Brad was vaping in the parking lot and bragging about his Tesla Model 3, Maya quietly negotiated one tiny clause into her employment contract. Legal barely glanced at it, just another boilerplate addition buried in Section 12.4, employee entitled to 8% penalty fee on any regulatory violations directly caused by management decisions leading to employee termination. Most people missed it. The lawyer approved it with a yawn. Maya smiled and signed, already thinking ahead. 3 years of weekend strategy sessions that were really Brad's panic attacks. 3 years of Slack messages at 2:47 a.m. about urgent brand alignment. 3 years of watching Brad walk into client meetings with Maya's research hot off the printer and her ideas still warm in his mouth. She said nothing when he used her competitive analysis in the quarterly board meeting. Stayed quiet when her process improvements won the company an efficiency award under his name. Didn't even flinch when he told Forbes magazine, "My team delivers because I push them beyond their comfort zones." But Maya remembered everything. She kept a Google Drive folder labeled insurance policy, copies of emails, project drafts, client communications. That little clause circled in red highlighter, updated like clockwork every quarter. By year 3, burnout wasn't a feeling anymore. It was office furniture. People quit, got performance managed, or simply vanished into other departments. Maya stayed, not because she loved it, but because she was building something. Something Brad couldn't see coming. The weapon arrived on a Tuesday, slipped into her inbox like a lottery ticket nobody else wanted to scratch. The email subject line was innocuous enough, compliance consultation inquiry. Brad's response above it was typical, "Maya, handle this regulatory stuff. Right in your wheelhouse." Translation, "Go waste your time on boring compliance work while I focus on the sexy strategy stuff." Maya clicked through. Data Secure Federal Solutions, a government contractor looking for help navigating new data privacy regulations. Brad had already dismissed it in the Monday stand-up as small potatoes, compliance theater. Most of the team nodded along, probably relieved not to deal with government red tape. But Maya saw something different. She set up a call, then another, took detailed notes in her leather moleskin and saved every email in a private folder. They weren't small potatoes, they were a $40 million government contractor with zero compliance infrastructure and a deadline breathing down their necks. Most importantly, they were desperate. And desperate clients pay premium rates. Maya never told Brad. Instead, she leaned into the chaos he dumped on her. That same week, he assigned her 3 urgent projects, fixing the marketing website, cleaning up the CRM database, and socializing the new employee handbook. "You're so good at the detail work," he said, chomping on his 3rd protein bar of the morning. Maya smiled sweetly, happy to help the team. Her evenings became strategic missions. While Brad posted gym selfies on LinkedIn, Maya was on calls with DataSecure's Chief Compliance Officer, Rebecca Torres. She offered framework reviews, policy templates, and most importantly, documentation. Every meeting invite listed Maya as the organizer. Every contract draft bore her digital signature. She didn't brag about the growing relationship. Didn't CC Brad on the important emails. Just built the foundation like a ghost laying bricks nobody could see. At one point, Brad poked his head over her cubicle wall. "How's that compliance thing going?" "Just documenting some processes," Maya replied without looking up from her screen, minimizing the $3.2 million statement of work she'd been drafting. He grunted and walked away to find someone else to micromanage. Maya reopened the contract, added another clause to the scope of work, and scheduled her next call with Rebecca. The machine never stopped, but Maya had learned to work between its gears. DataSecure didn't just need compliance help, they needed someone who understood how government contracts worked, someone who could translate bureaucratic requirements into actionable business processes. Someone who'd been doing the thankless detail work for 3 years while her boss took credit for the big picture thinking. Brad kept treating her like a junior associate while Maya was building a relationship worth millions. He saw busy work, she saw opportunity. He saw compliance theater, she saw a client who would pay whatever it took to avoid regulatory penalties. The beautiful part, Brad's name appeared on exactly 0 emails, 0 meeting invites, 0 contract drafts. Maya had built this entire relationship in the shadows of his indifference. Soon, very soon, his ignorance would become her greatest asset. Data Secure's headquarters looked like every other government contractor building in Northern Virginia, beige brick, tinted windows, and parking lots full of sensible sedans with clearance stickers. But inside, Maya discovered something beautiful, complete regulatory chaos. We're 6 months behind on our compliance audit, Rebecca Torres admitted over coffee that tasted like it was brewed in 1987. The previous consultant bailed when they realized how much work this actually was. Maya had reviewed their files. It wasn't just behind, it was a regulatory nightmare. Missing documentation, outdated policies, and a data handling system that would make privacy lawyers weep into their legal briefs. How much trouble are we talking about? Maya asked. Rebecca leaned forward. The kind where the government cancels our contract and we lose $40 million in revenue. Plus penalties. Maya didn't oversell, didn't promise miracles. She brought spreadsheets, timelines, and honest assessments. This is fixable, she said, but it's going to take months of methodical work. Rebecca nodded slowly. What do you need from us? Access, honesty, and trust that I know what I'm doing. And your rate? Maya had spent weeks researching comparable projects. Government compliance work wasn't glamorous, but it was expensive. Especially emergency compliance work with million-dollar stakes. My standard rate for regulatory remediation is $850 per hour, plus expenses. Given the timeline and complexity, I estimate 400 to 500 billable hours over 6 months. Rebecca didn't flinch. In government contracting, $400,000 in consulting fees was a rounding error compared to losing a $40 million contract. When can you start? Maya smiled. I already have. Back at TechFlow, Brad was knee-deep in another, culture transformation initiative, which meant new posters in the break room, fail fast, learn faster, and a Slack channel for radical transparency that quickly devolved into people complaining about the coffee machine. Maya kept her head down, working in the spaces between Brad's attention span. Nobody asked where she was going during her long lunch breaks. Nobody noticed when she blocked out calendar time as professional development and instead took strategy calls with Rebecca's team. She spoke their language, not startup buzzwords, but the precise terminology of federal compliance. Risk assessment matrices, audit trail requirements, data governance frameworks. She became indispensable not through enthusiasm, but through competence. Within 6 weeks, Data Secure had invited her to their quarterly compliance review meeting. Then a strategy session with their legal team. Then a planning retreat where she presented a comprehensive roadmap for regulatory compliance. Every interaction was documented. Every contract amendment bore her name. Every client testimonial mentioned her specifically. Maya had a spreadsheet color-coded by project phase, green for completed milestones, yellow for in-progress work, red for potential risks. By month 3, everything was green except one item, client retention and expansion opportunities. That's when Rebecca made the offer that would change everything. Maya, we've been talking internally. Instead of project-based consulting, would you consider a long-term compliance partnership? We're bidding on 3 new government contracts next year. We'd need ongoing support. Maya kept her expression neutral while calculating rapidly in her head. 3 contracts. Ongoing compliance work. Retainer fees plus hourly billing. What kind of scope are we talking about? Rebecca slid a folder across the table. Conservatively, $2 million annually, potentially more if we land the Defense Department contract. Maya nodded professionally while her heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't just a project anymore. This was a career-defining relationship that would set her up for life. And Brad's name wasn't anywhere on it. The Death March began with Brad's favorite phrase, all hands on deck. He'd called an emergency Monday morning meeting, bouncing on his toes like a caffeinated golden retriever who'd just discovered tennis balls. Team, we're launching our new client portal by month end. No excuses, no delays. It was October 2nd. The portal was maybe 30% built, hadn't been tested, and the UI looked like it was designed by someone who'd never used a computer. Maya sat at the back of the conference room, hands folded, watching Brad pace in front of the whiteboard covered in his illegible scrawl. He pointed at her without warning. Maya's going to project manage this whole thing. She's great at keeping trains on time. Everyone groaned internally. Maya nodded politely while mentally calculating how this would actually work in her favor. That afternoon, Brad dumped the entire project on her desk: incomplete wireframes, broken code, and a Slack channel full of confused developers asking basic questions nobody could answer. Classic Brad: create chaos, delegate responsibility, take credit for solutions. Maya opened the project files, duplicated everything into her private workspace, then did something beautiful. She quietly reassigned herself off all non-critical tasks. Just streamlining for efficiency, she told the team lead. Focus on core deliverables. While Brad chased his ego around another impossible deadline, Maya was in final negotiation mode with Data Secure. The compliance partnership was ready to sign, they just needed one last round of legal review. She worked in perfect parallel. Days belonged to Brad's crisis management, evenings belonged to building her future. She'd finish debugging someone else's code at 6 p.m., then switch gears to review Data Secure's contract amendments and compliance frameworks. The beautiful part was how invisible it all was. Maya had learned to work in Brad's blind spots: the administrative tasks he found boring, the client relationships he considered maintenance, the documentation he thought was beneath his strategic vision. Every evening after the Slack notifications died down, Maya opened her encrypted folder and got to work. Contract revisions, compliance checklists, risk assessment updates. Every document submitted with her digital signature, every email sent from her company account, every revision tracked with changes pointing directly to her. She was building a fortress of evidence, brick by methodical brick. At 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, Maya uploaded the final compliance framework to Data Secure's secure portal. At 7:15 a.m. Thursday, she walked into TechFlow with a grande Pike Place roast and no complaints about Brad's latest project emergency. Maya, Brad called from his glass office, shirt already wrinkled at 8 a.m. The client portal demo is Friday. Please tell me we're ready. We'll make it work, she said calmly, then returned to her desk and added another document to her insurance folder: Data Secure's signed partnership agreement, worth $2.1 million annually, with her name as the primary consultant and relationship manager. She didn't tell anyone, just scheduled one final contract review call with Rebecca's legal team, blocked out Friday afternoon for system testing, and waited. By Thursday night, half the development team was working around the clock to salvage Brad's impossible timeline. Maya had quietly finished her deliverables early, documented every decision, and prepared for what came next. Because while Brad was focused on his Friday demo disaster, Maya was about to become independently wealthy. And he still had no idea the biggest deal in company history was happening right under his strategically focused nose. The only question left was timing. When would Brad's ego finally write a check his competence couldn't cash? The answer came sooner than she expected. The email hit Maya's inbox at 8:23 a.m. sharp: urgent, all-hands meeting, required attendance. Brad had even added flame emojis, like they were about to witness the second coming of Steve Jobs instead of another ego-driven disaster. By 9 a.m., the entire team was crammed into the fourth-floor conference room. The air smelled like anxiety and stale bagels from the break room. Brad strutted in wearing a navy blazer over a t-shirt that read, "Disrupt Everything," his power outfit for when he needed to feel important. Big news, everyone. He clapped his hands like a game show host announcing prizes. I've been in stealth mode negotiations with a major new client. Very hush-hush, very strategic. Maya's coffee turned to concrete in her throat. Brad clicked his remote. Up came a slide: Data Secure Federal Solutions, Strategic Compliance Partnership. Her client, her contract, her 18 months of relationship building, reduced to bullet points with the metadata scrubbed clean. This partnership is going to transform our service offerings, Brad continued, that Silicon Valley smirk spreading across his face like spilled coffee. Enterprise-grade compliance consulting, government contract expertise, regulatory framework development. Basically, we're now a major player in the Fed space. Maya sat perfectly still, one hand resting on her notebook like it might explode. In her head, a single thought played on repeat: you absolute moron. You just stole from the wrong person. Brad paced around the conference table, opening the floor for questions. Someone asked, when did this happen? Behind the scenes hustle, Brad deflected. You know how I operate: build relationships, create value, deliver results. Maya knew. She'd built the relationship, created the value, done all the work while he was posting thought leadership content on LinkedIn about grinding in silence. The meeting ended with polite applause and confused murmurs. Brad clapped Maya on the shoulder as everyone filed out. See, I told you that compliance stuff would pay off eventually. She didn't blink, just nodded with the rest of them and walked back to her desk like a professional zombie. That afternoon, Maya returned to her computer and opened the folder labeled Data Secure, Final Documentation. Inside, the fully executed partnership agreement with her name as primary consultant, the original NDA timestamped 14 months prior, email chains with Rebecca dating back to the first cold outreach, and meeting notes from 18 separate strategy calls. She composed a single email to TechFlow's legal department. Subject line, documentation, client relationship management. No drama, no accusations. Just attachments. Lots of attachments. Then she locked her computer, walked down to HR, and requested a printed copy of her employment contract. Everything okay? Asked Jennifer from People Operations. Just routine, Maya replied. 10 minutes later, she was in the empty break room, flipping through pages of legal boilerplate. Her finger found the section she'd buried 3 years ago, Section 12.4, Penalty Clauses. In the event of wrongful termination resulting from management malfeasance or client relationship interference, employee shall be entitled to penalty compensation equal to 8% of affected contract value, payable within 30 days. Till there, till valid, till her ace in the hole. Maya folded the contract, slipped it into her purse, and walked back to her desk. Her Slack was buzzing with congratulations for Brad's major win. Her email had 3 new messages from Rebecca at Data Secure, excited to finalize the partnership details with you this week. Maya replied simply, looking forward to it. Let's make this official. Then she updated her insurance folder with the signed partnership agreement, $2.1 million annually, renewable for 3 years, with Maya Chen listed as the primary relationship manager and compliance consultant. She closed her laptop and smiled. Brad had just fired the starting gun, and he still didn't know he was standing downrange. Tomorrow's all-hands meeting was going to be very different from today's. The axe fell with catered donuts and corporate buzzwords. Brad had scheduled another, strategic alignment session, for Friday morning, the kind of meeting title that screams layoffs wrapped in synergy speak. When Maya walked into the glass-walled conference room, she could smell the fear under the vanilla air freshener. On the table, a sad fruit tray, untouched pastries, and branded notebooks nobody would ever open. Brad entered like a discount Tim Cook, wearing his lucky blazer over a t-shirt that said, Execute Excellence. Thanks for gathering, team, he began, scanning the room like a shark evaluating a buffet. Today's about vision, about right-sizing our talent stack and optimizing for growth trajectory. Maya sat in the third chair from the window, hands folded, stomach calm as glass. She'd run this scenario in her head a dozen times. Brad launched into a PowerPoint about resource reallocation and strategic pivots, fancy terms for the fact that he'd just promised a $2 million client partnership without having anyone qualified to deliver it. Then came the slide that made Maya's pulse quicken, team restructuring for maximum impact. Which brings me to a difficult decision, Brad said, his eyes finding hers with practiced precision. Effective immediately, we're parting ways with Maya Chen. We appreciate her contributions, but we need to evolve our skill sets for the federal contracting space. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone dropped a pen. Jennifer from HR shifted uncomfortably near the door, clutching a manila envelope like a life preserver. Maya didn't speak, didn't need to. Brad wasn't finished. Frankly, some of the operational oversights we've experienced require fresh perspective. We can't afford to carry legacy approaches into this new client relationship. Legacy approaches. He just called her dead weight in front of junior developers who looked up to her, in front of colleagues who knew she'd been working 60-hour weeks for 3 years. Maya stood slowly. Her chair made a soft scraping sound against the floor. She looked at the team, real people with mortgages and student loans and dreams they were afraid to chase, and nodded once. Then she walked out, ignoring Jennifer's attempt to hand her the termination paperwork. Maya's just not strategic enough for where we're heading, Brad called after her, nervous laughter following his words. Maya went to her desk, packed methodically. Her plants, her notebooks, the small external drive containing every document related to the Data Secure relationship. Before leaving, she opened her laptop one final time. She composed a single email to TechFlow's legal department and copied the CEO. Subject line, Section 12.4 Penalty Clause Activation. The body contained 1 sentence and 6 attachments. Per my employment contract, I'm invoking the penalty clause for wrongful termination related to client relationship interference. Attachment 1, the fully executed Data Secure partnership agreement with Maya as primary consultant. Attachment 2, 18 months of email correspondence building the relationship. Attachment 3, meeting notes, call logs, and strategy documents, all authored by Maya. Attachment 4, Rebecca Torres signed statement confirming Maya as the originating consultant. Attachment 5, her employment contract with Section 12.4 highlighted in yellow. Attachment 6, an invoice for $3,200,000, 8% of the 4-year contract value, due within 30 days. Maya hit send, closed the laptop, and walked into the elevator. As the doors closed, she whispered, strategic enough now. By the time she reached the parking garage, her phone was buzzing. Unknown numbers, frantic voicemails, probably Brad realizing he'd just stepped on a landmine wearing steel-toed boots. Maya silenced her phone, started her Honda Civic, and drove toward the nearest Starbucks. She had some calls to make, but first, she wanted to savor this moment. Behind her, TechFlow's legal department was about to have the worst Friday of the corporate lives. The settlement offer arrived at 3:47 p.m. via encrypted email, 23 minutes after Maya's lawyer had forwarded the penalty clause documentation to TechFlow's entire legal team. She was sitting outside a Panera Bread, Americano growing cold, watching normal people live the normal Friday afternoons while her phone buzzed with increasingly frantic calls from unknown numbers. The email was from Marcus Webb, TechFlow's general counsel, a man she'd met exactly once at the company holiday party, where he'd spent most of the evening explaining cryptocurrency to anyone who couldn't escape fast enough. Ms. Chen, we'd like to discuss a resolution to this contractual matter. Are you available for a call at your earliest convenience? We believe there may be room for mutual accommodation. Maya smiled, took her time finishing her coffee, then called her attorney first. Sarah, it's Maya. They want to talk settlement. Sarah Kellerman had been her law school roommate's recommendation, a woman who specialized in employment law and had a reputation for making HR departments cry into their NDAs. How fast did they cave? Sarah asked. 4 hours. Impressive. They must have run the numbers and realized fighting you would cost more than paying you. What's your position? Maya looked out at the parking lot, watching a mom load groceries while her toddler threw goldfish crackers at a pigeon. Normal problems. Simple problems. Full amount, no NDA, clean separation. I want my money and I want the right to tell this story someday. The no NDA demand is going to hurt them more than the money. I know. An hour later, Maya called Marcus Webb back. He answered on the first ring, voice tight with the particular strain of lawyer panic. Maya, thank you for calling. We've reviewed the documentation and, frankly, we'd prefer to handle this amicably. Full payment, expedited processing, clean separation. Our only request is a standard mutual non-disclosure agreement. Maya watched the toddler finally succeed in feeding the pigeon a goldfish cracker. Small victories. Marcus, I appreciate the professional tone, but there's no NDA. You want to pay me? Fine. You want to silence me? Find another lawyer. Silence. Then the sound of typing, probably him calculating how much worse this could get if she decided to talk publicly about TechFlow's management practices. What would it take to expedite this resolution? Wire transfer, full amount, by Monday close of business. No gag order, no restrictions on future employment, no non-compete enforcement. I sign the separation agreement, you process the payment, we both move on with our lives. More typing. Maya could practically hear his internal cost-benefit analysis grinding through the possibilities. We can have documents ready by end of day. I'll have my attorney review them tonight. By Sunday evening, Sarah had negotiated the final terms. By Monday at 4:23 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed with a notification that would have made her 25-year-old self faint. Wire transfer received, $3,200,000 from TechFlow Solutions LLC. Maya was in her apartment, sitting on her IKEA couch, wearing sweatpants and eating leftover Thai food straight from the container. No champagne, no celebration, just the quiet satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. Her phone had been silent all day. No calls from TechFlow, no frantic messages from former colleagues, no dramatic confrontations. Just the clean, professional resolution of a contract properly enforced. She opened her laptop one final time, logged into her old work Slack for a screenshot, then deactivated her account. No goodbye message, no dramatic farewell. She just left. Across town, Brad was probably figuring out how to explain to Data Secure why the primary consultant no longer worked at TechFlow. How his stealth negotiations had actually been someone else's 18 months of relationship building. How his strategic vision had cost the company more money than they'd make on the contract for the next 2 years. Maya finished her pad thai, opened her laptop, and started drafting an email to Rebecca Torres at Data Secure. She had a compliance consulting business to launch, and her first client was already waiting. The last thing she did before bed was update her LinkedIn status, open to new opportunities in government compliance consulting. Within an hour, she had 12 connection requests and 3 direct messages from recruiters. Turns out, being strategic enough was exactly as profitable as she'd always known it would be. Brad was about to learn that the hard way, one quarterly budget review at a time. But that was his problem now. Maya had $3.2 million reasons to sleep very, very well. Thanks for joining another episode of Workplace Justice, Corporate Survivors. Hit subscribe for more career karma stories, and remember, always read the fine print. Especially the parts you write yourself.